The South African Broadcasting Corporation will no longer be broadcasting the Premier Soccer League matches on radio. Well, this decision follows careful consideration to the SABC's business operation and unsuccessful negotiations with the PSL to secure the broadcast rights for soccer matches on radio. Earlier on, we spoke to SABC Board chairperson Mr. Bongumusa Makhathini.
The main goal for the board and the executive directors of the SABC was to review all commercial contracts to make sure that they are balanced and also they make commercial sense. So that's basically one of the main priorities of the board and the executive directors of the SABC, to ensure that we get SABC to be financially viable. So when you look at the cost of sports rights have been escalating beyond inflation, and it has become unmanageable and unaffordable for us. And as the SABC board and with the executive directors, we've got to make sure that the contract we enter to are making sense commercially and they are balanced. So where we are now, the demands from the PSL are not fair to the SABC, and as the board, we cannot approve such.
What about audiences in far-flung areas which really rely on radio commentary, where they do not have any access to television? How will they be impacted now?
It is unfortunate that South Africans who rely on radio to enjoy their soccer and to get news and information will be affected by this decision. But at the end of the day, we have to balance that with the financial viability of the SABC. If we continue to perpetuate wrong behavior, wrong habits, wrong contracts, we'll never get SABC to work. So at some point, we've got to reset. And part of the reset really is to get PSL to also play part. But also, it can't be the sole responsibility of the SABC to fund the operations of sports bodies. So we've got to also get other partners, to get the Department of Sports and everybody else who cares and who's got a mandate to develop sport in this country to chip in and play their part.
I'm sure there will be ramifications on both sides now for the SABC as well as for the PSL. What would those be?
Firstly, that's why we've issued a statement to apologize to the South Africans, more especially even our blind listeners who rely on radio solely for information, and we sincerely apologize. But we also expect citizens to understand that as the board, we have a responsibility to turn around the SABC. And turning around the SABC will mean re-looking at some of the decisions that were made before. And anything that does not make commercial sense, we cannot approve. We cannot enter into irregular contracts. We cannot do things that will worsen the situation at the SABC.
I'm not too sure if you can elaborate on what the contract actually stipulates and what was the deadlock that led to this point where we are now.
I think the main thing, the contract is not currently balanced. It does not make commercial sense for the SABC. SABC will incur costs of production, will send their journalists all around following these clubs, and there will be people who will be placing ads and advertising during these games. It is our view as the SABC that SABC must benefit from revenues that get collected as a result of that. And we have to balance our cost versus what we make out of these kind of games. So where we are now, it's not making sense, and that's why we said we cannot agree to it.
It's a deadlock now, but can the situation still be salvaged, or is this perhaps the final whistle to this negotiation?
Definitely, the situation can still be salvaged. We can still get into negotiations. What we want to be clear is that as a SABC, we care about the viability of this business. We also, at the same time, very sensitive to what the South Africans expect from the SABC. But at the end of the day, people need to understand that to get SABC on a right trajectory, on the financial sustainability, we've got to review and turn around anything that does not make commercial sense. Gone are the days where SABC will perpetuate and do things that don't make commercial sense.
Meanwhile, Minister of Sports and Recreation Mathokozile Xasa has noted with great concern that millions of South Africans will now not be able to follow local football matches on SABC Radio. In a statement, Xasa says she will be meeting with both the SABC and the PSL and all relevant parties this coming week. According to a statement issued by the SABC on Friday afternoon, a decision was taken not to broadcast PSL matches on radio following unsuccessful negotiations between the PSL and the broadcaster. And at this stage, the SABC is only broadcasting the PSL soccer matches on its television platforms. As a public service content provider, the SABC remains committed to ensuring that its audiences are catered for with the best content, and sports of national interest is one of the key content offerings which the public broadcaster has prioritized.